February often marks the point where New Year's resolutions falter. So I did some research on building good habits and sticking with them, and here's the gist of it. Completely changing your habits can be overwhelming. So instead, we're going to add a small positive habit, like practicing 10 minutes a day. It's much more manageable and is proven to lead to significant change over time. And notice I said add a small habit. You can still be you. You can still watch TV, hang out with your buddies, or whatever it is that brings you comfort and relaxation. Now, here's how we're going to do this. I have 4 steps for basically tricking yourself into practicing regularly. And this is going to be our baseline. Once we're used to it and we can look forward to practicing, we'll get more into the nitty-gritty and talk about actual technique stuff like moving your arm with the rhythm. But if we aren't motivated to practice, that stuff can't really come into play. And by the way, this is the first episode in a series about developing good guitar habits. I'll be releasing a new episode every Saturday for the month of February. So please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. That way you'll be notified when the next one comes out, and also be able to easily check out all of my other lessons teaching popular songs and essential techniques for aspiring guitarists. Also, if you're new to guitar, you'll want to take advantage of a free 2-week crash course that's on my website. It'll help you with all the basics and even teach you your first couple songs on guitar. There's a link in the corner for that and down below in the description. Anyways, let's get down to business. The first step, and this is definitely the most critical, is to make it easy for yourself to just pick up your guitar and play. And usually that means leaving it out on a stand somewhere in your home where you're going to be hanging out anyways, like having it beside your couch, in your living room, or up on the wall. And that way, you're walking by, you see your guitar, you can just grab it in like 1 second, put it in your lap, and you're ready to play. And if you got to take it out of the case and go through all this rigmarole, it's just one more thing. You could take that a step further and have a little practice zone, or what I did when I lived in a small apartment with my wife and kids. I just had this little box that I got at the dollar store with a guitar tuner, a capo, some picks, and my practice journal. And that way I could just pull out that little box, grab my guitar, and I'm good to go in like 10 seconds. My next tip is to buy a practice journal. I bought mine for $1.50 at the dollar store. Due to inflation, it's probably $2 nowadays. But it's just a little booklet with some lined pages, and you write down what you're doing. You're practicing a certain song. You write down the chords in that song, like Knocking on Heaven's Door has G, D, and C. So you just put, today I worked on switching from G to D. And that's all you got to do. There's no real hard answer here. You fill it out however you like. But when you fill it out, you're going to end up with this book of everything you've practiced. Seeing what you're doing on guitar and being able to see your progress is one of the most heavily motivating factors. And it also helps when it comes to deciding what to work on, because you can just look at what you did last time, or maybe you can look back a month and, it'll spark some ideas of what you could practice right now so that you can just get down to business right away. It's also a good way to see how far you've come. The proof is in your journal. And those are 2 external things, having your guitar out on a stand, having your practice journal. As far as getting the motivation or, creating that moment where you do sit down and practice for 10 minutes a day, I want to share a story that my wife shared with me about one of her professors when she was in university. Basically, he wasn't taking care of himself, and he had a minor heart attack. And as a result of this, he decided that he had to make some changes. He realized that every day during his break, he would go down to the cafeteria and get one of those giant chocolate chip cookies from like Starbucks or wherever. And he had a bunch of habits like that. And even though his doctor told him that he had to stop doing all those things, he wasn't able to because it seemed too overwhelming to make all these changes in his life all at once, because it would kind of essentially change who he was as a person. He was somebody who enjoyed a treat. He worked hard, he deserved it, but he was also a really smart guy and determined to figure out how to change his behavior on that basic level. And what he realized was this: when he went down to get the cookie, it wasn't just about the cookie. It was about the experience. It was about socializing with the person at the counter, seeing people that he knew in the cafeteria and having little conversations. And instead of abruptly cutting out the cookie, he decided to enrich his experience by engaging more with the cafeteria staff and all the other people there and putting more effort into those conversations and building relationships. And over time, the social interactions became much more fulfilling than the cookie. And he continued to visit the cafeteria, but he would just bring an apple. The focus shifted from the cookie to the joy of socializing, eventually overall leading to a healthier habit that completely replaced the older one at virtually no effort. It's not like he had to have those hard willpower moments, and when it comes to guitar, the example that comes to mind, and I need to preface it by saying I'm not some sort of self-help guy, I don't pretend to be, but this is a strong example. If you're somebody who smokes cigarettes, instead of saying, hey, instead of smoking, I'm going to play guitar, how about playing guitar for like 10 minutes right before or after you smoke? I personally don't smoke, but I have plenty of little things that I do, like when I sit down at the end of the day to go on my computer or to watch TV. If I play guitar for a couple minutes right before I do that, I feel a whole lot better about my entire day. And sometimes the guitar session just takes over. And instead of looking forward to, playing games on my computer or whatever, I just get lost practicing, and that ends up being the focal point of my evening. Not always, but sometimes. The last thing that I've seen that can slow down your motivation is not having the materials to practice or not knowing what to practice next. I know this one affects people, especially when they reach the intermediate and advanced stages, because the whole world opens up to you. You could pursue anything, take music in a million different directions, and the amount of choices that you can make can be so overwhelming. It's hard to decide what to do with your practice time. And even in the beginner phases, it still affects us in that way, but it's a little bit different. Say you want to learn how to play a song. You need to work on chords. You need to work on your rhythm. Strumming and singing is a huge roadblock. Some of the chord changes are easier than other ones. Knowing where you are in the song so you don't get lost. There's so many little things you can work on. And even if you decide that you need to practice chord switching, well, what exactly should you do? What chords? How should you do it? And having methods or really solid materials to work with can really help with this. I know when I was getting started, I had a friend who I could just call and I would literally ask him, like, what should I practice? And he would just tell me something, probably arbitrarily. Looking back, we were teenagers. I doubt he knew the best thing for me to practice, but he just told me something and I believed that was the thing I should be doing because I trusted him because he was super good, and I did it. And it probably wasn't the literally most effective thing to do. Now as a teacher with over a decade of experience, I'm confident that I could have chosen more effective things for me to practice. Like if I could go back in time and tell myself a few key things, I would have improved much faster. But I still improved. I still got good enough within 3 years of starting guitar to be accepted into music school. I played tons of gigs at this point. I have this channel. I'm a decent enough guitar player. And it all came down to just having something to work on and believing that that was the right thing and following through with it. The easiest thing is simply being told what to do and then doing it. That's what people pay for lessons for. They don't have to think about what to do. The teacher just says, work on this and come see me next week and we'll take it from there. The reason why I started this channel exactly 1 decade ago, by the way, February 2014. The reason I started this channel was to give my students supplemental materials to work on. But I quickly realized that being able to provide a step-by-step path, telling them exactly what to work on was so much more effective. And I created courses to provide that experience, to give people that, here's how you do something, here's what you need to practice, here's how your practice session should go. Let's just practice it together. And, that was a whole experience. If you want the first step, I have that free crash course that I mentioned. And if you're just getting started, that's the best way to go. You sign up for it, you get a little workbook. You can just watch the videos and you'll get better at guitar. You'll learn about posture, tuning, reading tab, switching chords, developing rhythm, playing real songs that you actually recognize. It's all in there. And if you want the more complete and robust experience, not just the appetizer, but like the main course, so to speak, I have a course, Learn Guitar Once and For All. that'll take you all the way from absolute beginner to confident strummer. And I'll put a link for that in the corner as well if you are interested. To sum it up, adding small, good habits can be more effective and less overwhelming than attempting to completely change your lifestyle all at once. By focusing on realistic and manageable improvements, you can make significant progress towards your goals. Now, the next episode of this series comes out next Saturday. I also have my regularly scheduled lessons coming throughout the week. Next week, we'll be focusing on moving our arm while strumming and developing good mechanical habits for smooth and steady rhythm. We're really going to take a deep dive into the strumming arm to smooth it out. Just take a moment right now to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, the bell icon, and if you have a minute, leave a comment. If you have a question or even just to say hi, that really helps me out here on YouTube. And that way you'll know about the next lesson. Otherwise, all the links that you'll need are down below in the description or in the corner. Have a fun time practicing, and I'll see you soon.